Tony Blair was the main ally to the US, especially in connection with the invasion of the war on Iraq. And we have seen that he completed his term as a prime minister, and right after that he was appointed as a peace envoy to the Middle East, which I personally think is one of the biggest jokes in the century. Now, if you look at the role of the Arabs in this whole scenario, what do you think, basically, what they are doing or what they should do? I mean, it's quite clear that a lot of people have lost their lives in Iraq, right? And Tony Blair, I mean, he admitted himself that that was a ghastly era, and he said that, I'm sorry, and that's all.
Well, let me first of all say he didn't complete his term. He won the elections third time. It was the Labour Party that won the elections, and it was the Labour Party that got rid of him. I agree with you. It's a big joke, but it's a very serious issue too, because the Quartet is the most powerful organisation that is represented in, I mean, the United Nations has virtually surrendered to the Quartet, which has the power of actually bringing everything together and creating this two-state solution. According to Tony Blair and George W. Bush, we bombed Iraq. Eventually, first it was because of the weapons of mass destruction and everything else. Then it became because we wanted to impose democracy in Iraq and Afghanistan, because we wanted to see the Middle East being democratic. We've killed 1 million people because we wanted to impose democracy in the Middle East. But here, for the first time, you have transparent, open, fair elections in the Palestinian Authority area, and Hamas wins the elections. It wins the biggest amount of seats in the Hamas parliament, and they're not allowed to govern. Now, what you're really saying is that you want democracy, but you want your chaps in there. And if your chaps are not there, then you can be Hosni Mubarak or King Abdullah, and then you can be dictators or kingdoms or sheikdoms or whatever. That's fine. If Musharraf is your president, and so long as he's delivering for us, the values and the democracy and the rights and the international law and the rule of law does not really matter, because you're delivering for us. And the unfortunate thing is that this is exactly what the Americans and we perceive to have done. Quite frankly, I'm embarrassed that Tony Blair was my leader and also leader of our country. I'm embarrassed that he behaved in such a way.
Well, for what I see is it's against the loss of innocent lives, irrespective of like religion, culture, caste, or any other diversity. And that was the whole purpose as well that was established after the aftermath of 9/11. But after 9/11, we have seen several wars, and we're seeing ongoing wars as well. So what do you think, to what extent this organization has achieved its goal, like in terms of stopping the war?
Well, you know, there are lots of organizations. Stop the War Coalition around the world is probably the largest. Then, you know, there are lots of other organizations, international.
Like World Forum and likewise many other organizations.
Yeah, many. You see, these forums cannot even compete with United Nations. And unfortunately, even the United Nations is helpless and powerless when it comes to big powers like the United States of America and Europe. For instance, the war on Iraq, for instance, it was based on the fact that there were weapons of mass destruction, that there were 45 minutes, that Saddam Hussein could attack us and we would be in danger of losing our lives, etc., etc. All that was lies and deception. And the very fact that the United Nations and the Security Council was completely ignored, the whole world community was completely ignored, and 1 million people have lost their lives in Iraq and 200,000 so in Afghanistan. And there are people who continue to suffer, whether it is the massacre of Jenin or the massacre in Gaza.